VeeCon is a must stop for me, for our team.
Clip that part.
Marketing for the Now is the most contemporary show about what's actually happening. Marketing is going through one of its biggest transformations ever, where this thing controls the game. And there's so many things we pay attention to, but we get to talk to the brightest and best minds in marketing on marketing.
I'm so excited to be sitting here at VeeCon with the CMO of H&R Block, Jill Cress. Jill, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here at VeeCon in Los Angeles.
Is this your first VeeCon?
It is my first VeeCon, yeah.
But you've heard of VeeCon before.
Of course. I was really hoping and intending to join last year, but I had a last minute snafu, so I'm delighted to be here and excited for what's ahead.
And what are you expecting this year at VeeCon? What have you heard?
Oh my gosh, the content looks incredible, and as a brand that is so focused on how we can provide our solutions and services to the creator economy, I'm really excited to spend some time with the creators here and hear what's on their agenda and how they're thinking about the role that they play in modern marketing so that we can continue to get to know them so we can be a great partner to them.
I love that, and it's so rare that a CMO is saying that they want to actually hang out with and hear from and learn from creators. So we're gonna have to introduce you to some cool creators in the hospitality lounge, a little mix and mingle, because we have, I think, 1,000 creators here that are part of our VeeCon creator program, and they've been really excited to, one, hear from each other and meet each other and network and do fun things and go to fun parties, but also to learn from marketers. So I think we should do a little CMO creator mixer.
I love it. I'm looking forward to meeting as many of them as I can.
Cool. And you're on at 1:45 giving a talk about brand building.
Yes. Yeah, I'm excited. I love what's happening at H&R Block. I have a passion for working on legacy brands, and as we work to revitalize and re-energize them, and H&R Block is one of them. And so it's fun to take some of the playbook from the things that we did when I was at National Geographic, another storied brand, and we used to talk about our journey from reverence to relevance at National Geographic. And at H&R Block, we have a real opportunity to infuse more relevance into the brand, and we're excited about putting the brand more into culture and doing some fun things.
Jill is very on brand today in H&R Block green. I'm sure that is no accident. We love it. So Jill, tell us a little bit about your incredible and illustrious marketing career.
Yeah, I am both an intentional and accidental marketer. I dreamed of being a marketer. My dad worked at Quaker Oats when I was a kid, and we were always surrounded by new product launches. And I can remember young Jill mocking up cereal boxes because that was a big part of the product experience that we had in the Justic household when I was growing up. And so I always wanted to be a marketer. And when I graduated, which is in one of the many previous recessions from college, I had an offer to work for a consumer packaged goods company, but due to the economic challenges, they canceled their management training program. And so I found my way into banking. But it was actually a really fortuitous experience because I worked at a bank, and it was there that I met the great people at MasterCard. And I ended up having a really rewarding 22+ year career at MasterCard. I started in sales, but the exciting thing about sales is that it's all about value prop. It's all about telling a story. And so through telling great stories to partners that we worked with, I finally landed in marketing some 10, 15 years into my career at MasterCard.
Cool.
Yeah, and did B2B marketing and global marketing at the point when digital was exploding, and it allowed me to really bring my passion for data, numbers, and performance to what was happening in marketing. And we were actually one of Gary's first clients at MasterCard.
Yes, thank you for that.
Way back when, and it's been an exciting ride. And from there, I went to National Geographic.
How did that journey happen though? Because MasterCard to National Geographic, that's a jump.
It is a jump. I think, it was really interesting. I loved what I was doing at MasterCard, and
fantastic company, by the way, right?
Such a great company. Yes, I had an amazing experience there and grew as both an executive and as a human. Like it so defines who I am. Our family got to move to Europe with MasterCard. It was fantastic. I stayed there for 22 years because I was always growing and doing something different. And as part of that, there was a moment of, well, should I go back into sales? And I was thinking about what was happening in marketing at the moment. And I really didn't want to go back into a sales role. I felt that was the time to really double down and understand where digital marketing was going to take brands. And I started to get some calls for CMO roles. And I got a call about the National Geographic role and we had just built out Priceless.com. We had just built out our first
incredible
app.
platform.
Yeah, and we were taking the value prop of the brand, which was experiences matter more than things, and we created a global marketplace of experiences. So I think that digital work that we were doing started to get some attention, and National Geographic was on a journey of transformation, which was very much about how they could leverage all of their content to build new audiences. When I joined, it was already the most followed brand on Instagram. National Geographic, when I joined probably 6-7 years ago, had 50 million followers. By the time I left, it had over 100 million followers. And so it was just, taking some of those same learnings and understanding how you could lean into platform specificity to build audiences. And
at Nat Geo, always hits.
Always, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. The story goes that as Instagram was taking off, the smart people at National Geographic said, well, gosh, we've got some of the best photographers in the world, and this is a platform that celebrates photography. Let's let them really curate the content and see where this takes us. So it was fascinating as someone who had thought about the role of media and connecting with audiences to then be at a media company, and kind of the cycle of both having to continue to invest in media so that we would have eyeballs, and then working with partners and other brands to leverage our audience to connect with, for brands to connect with our audience. So I learned a ton. Ultimately, my passion took me back to financial services, from National Geographic to PayPal and Venmo, which was fascinating, and absolutely delighted to be at H&R Block, which is on this path to transforming how we think about the incredible services and kind of the legacy of what we've been doing for 70 plus years, which is being a trusted partner and having a relationship with hardworking Americans who need our services. For most Americans, their tax event is the most significant financial moment of the year. And so we work really hard to maximize that for them and bring that expertise and care to provide all the confidence that they need in that moment.
Trust and confidence are just the two words that I think of when I think of H&R Block, and of course the iconic green. And April is a time when this is top of everybody's minds, but you and your team, and of course we're fortunate to be part of that team, are helping people think about this year round.
I think that while the tax moment plays out in April for most people, the life that we live and those moments of tax consideration play out all year. And we're excited about the work that we're doing with you guys to make the brand more relevant and lean into stories that matter as we think about life stages, when Americans get married or buy a house, right? Those things happen year round. We've also launched a mobile banking app so that we can do more jobs for our clients year round, and that's been really exciting.
Spruce.
Yes, our Spruce mobile banking app, and it is, it's been great to have a product that is incredibly useful to clients with the way that it's set up. And then we work on enhanced value prop solutions during tax season. So for example, if you are getting a refund, which over 70% of Americans do get a refund on their taxes.
I wish I got a refund. I haven't gotten one for a few years. Maybe next year.
I know. So for those who do, if you have a Spruce card, you can get your refund 6 days early. So it's been really fun to, bring those products and experiences together.
And I'm sure tell that story, right? It's like, here's the product, but here's the benefit is very clear that those 6 days matter.
Oh my gosh.
And tell that story in a way that connects it all.
Yeah, exactly. Especially given where the hardworking American is today, which is, in many cases quite cash strapped. So those 6 days can be the difference between having your, washer and dryer fixed 6 days early, or getting that new tire that you need for your car so you can get to work and have the transportation that you rely on. So it's exciting.
That's amazing. And Jill, we absolutely adore all the work that you're doing at H&R Block, for the mascot, to work on social, to the integration of the banking app. There's so many cool things that you're doing. I know the VeeFriends audience is so excited to hear you speak today. And we're honestly so just honored that you took the time to join us here in Los Angeles. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So nice to see you.
Great to see you.
Thank you for joining us at VeeCon.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. Okay, is this your first, second, third VeeCon?
This is my first VeeCon in person, but I have lived with everyone socially for a while.
Okay, amazing. And what did you think of years 1, 2, and now 3?
I mean, it's been an incredible journey to watch. I was along the ride on the very early days. It's just been fun how it's evolved as well. And it's some great conversations around culture and the creator economy and all that. I'm very excited to be here.
Amazing. Okay. Tell the Marketing for the Now community a little bit about Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. So I currently am the Chief Marketing Officer for a company called MGA Entertainment. Many people won't know that name, but they'll know brand names like Bratz, Little Tykes, LOL Surprise. So it's a mini toy company. I get to play with toys every day.
That sounds pretty amazing. And you were telling me about one that is focused on making like mini dioramas. What is that one called?
Oh, that's called Miniverse.
Miniverse. I need a
which is
Miniverse.
Fantastic. Again, it goes with this kind of idea of collectability and DIY and things like that. Yeah.
Josh, you're probably one of the few, if not the only CMO who is like deeply familiar, who we're going to be hanging out with today, who's deeply familiar with like the NFT space, NFT culture, and was so in that like sort of first early wave. Can you maybe talk a little bit about your experience in the digital collectible space and how you've seen that evolve?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to this role, I just joined MGA about 3 months ago.
Congrats.
Thank you. Prior to this role, I was at Warner Brothers, and I was heading up their efforts into Web3 and NFTs, and big believer in just kind of the idea of digital collectibles.
Same.
And fans being able to take the stuff that they have digitally and bring it with them wherever they go. And so that's been a fun evolution. I mean, I rode the wave just like everybody else did, but I think what we found in the last 4 years, is that the fundamental idea of digital ownership and collectability, and more importantly, community building, is critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so too. And I think like what I know that like 10 years from now, if we're watching this, like digital collectibles are going to be a thing. They already are a thing, but it's niche now, right? Just because this idea of collecting digital things is like, it is prevalent in some like early adopter communities or some people who are like really into collectibles, but it isn't necessarily widespread yet because people are still, valuing physical things, which makes sense. And I'm really excited for you to see this in person because you've seen the social side of like the impact of VeeCon, but in person, like it's amazing. I was just riding the elevator with some people who like flew in from Germany to come here, and like they've made these friends through the VeeFriends community and through the VeeFriends Discord. It's amazing.
Yeah, physical events, such a big fan. I think everybody was declaring that physical events were dead a few years back, and to see this resurgence of everybody getting back together and just the community building is such a good augmentation with the digital side of things.
Absolutely. So how are you thinking about physical events these days? Things like conferences, trade shows, that must be a big part of your business.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an interesting world to be in as a CMO right now because there is this push to CMO or to digital, just from a pure efficiency perspective.
Right.
But I think when you're talking about a brand and you're bringing communities together, that physical piece is really important. So our brands pop up everywhere. So we were at VidCon a few months ago. We actually just did, so Bratz is one of our marquee brands, which is having a resurgence. And we actually just did a big club opening on Sunset last week.
Oh, that's very fun.
As a partnership. And just to see everybody come together and celebrate the brands is not going away.
And how do you think about amplifying that just beyond the physical club itself? Like, I'm sure you guys had an amazing content strategy. How do you think about taking that physical and like expanding it, almost using it like as a studio in a way?
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's driving FOMO, right? Like, I wish I could be there, things like that. That also helps us. What we learned from that conversation when we put it on social is, should we do more? Right? Should we be in more locations, et cetera? Like, you can't replicate some of the big events,
of course.
Bringing things to local communities is really important.
Yeah, I think the local aspect is amazing, and like we've done this, especially for things like spirit brands that are so inherently local, and like their business is focused on appealing to certain distributors. So like the local matters, but also the sharing it and like making it seem really cool. Like we've seen this happen like even across the world. Like it might be an amazing conference here that in fact actually like people in Australia are really interested in if we do it right and sort of capture it in the right ways. So that's a big part of our strategy here at VeeCon.
Yeah, our metrics are on these kind of things are much less about how many people came through and more about what's the excitement, what are we generating socially. You can only fit so many people through an experience at once, but it's getting the right people through, getting their passion, getting them to talk about the brand is really exciting.
That's amazing. So Josh, what are you looking forward to at this VeeCon?
Oh boy, there's a great panel today I saw about the creator economy, so that's been very exciting for us.
I think Valeria's on that one, right?
I think so,
yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah, so you mentioned our brand Miniverse. So Miniverse is this insane brand that has taken off over the last couple of years, almost exclusively on social. What we found is when we put Miniverse in front of creators, they create things that we would have never thought of.
Right.
I say the phrase diorama, but it's essentially miniature versions of things, and miniature things always do well. Just to see that creativity blossom is pretty incredible. So I'm excited about further a conversation about how people are taking their ideas and monetizing it.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay, I love that you said this sort of took off on social.
Yeah.
Was that something that was intentional for the brand, or I'm sure there's some level of strategy into it, or is it a thing that you really saw the community resonating with, and then you all leaned into it?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting with Miniverse is we're a toy company. We inherently make toys for kids.
Right.
Miniverse is really the sweet spot is 18 to 24-year-olds, and so that was just kind of a right thing for them to take socially and keep going. We followed them. Yeah. Honestly.
I see a lot of trending coloring books as like a sort of adult de-stressor, or crocheting. Absolutely. I was just speaking with the CMO of Michaels, and she was talking about how crocheting is a big thing that's also taken off on social media, because people are giving like tips and tricks of how to get better at your craft. Interior design, that's my personal click hole that I like go very far into, but a lot of these crafting things, people share their versions of it and they're really into it, and then there are also like niche communities on TikTok. There's crochet talk and like all these like very narrow specific things that people are really into. And what's that thing? It's not slime, but it's like slumu or something.
Oh yeah.
That also completely, they actually took that from being a physical product, doing really well on social media, into doing like physical like experiences where you go and do, it's like a museum or an activation.
Oh yeah, I went to New York and my 9-year-old at the time made me go there and get her a t-shirt.
Amazing. The founders in Patel.
Oh, perfect.
We'll have to introduce you.
Exactly.
So, but I think things like that, the purpose of that comment was just that things take off on social, and then they go to physical locations. They go, into more full-on commercials. You and I were speaking about this yesterday. Sometimes, random products that take off on social end up like selling out, and very often our retail clients are like, oh, what happened on TikTok? Because this pair of jeans is like, we have none left.
Yeah, we see this every day. I mean, you mentioned it was a strategy to have this take off on TikTok. Like, I would love to say it was strategy, but you really don't know what's going to take off.
Right.
And all you can do is nurture it, right? Like, oh, we see this and we're going to nurture that along. We just had, we'll get random content clips popping from 4 or 5 years ago from our animated content that we hadn't focused on in years that just all of a sudden take off. It's like, oh, well, let's pivot that way.
I feel, especially with Bratz, right? Like some of those animations were like iconic. Like I remember those commercials very clearly.
Yeah. And we have 25 years of content and a very passionate fan base, and they know it better than we do sometimes.
And what's really cool about the animated content is you also own all of that, which is a unique experience. When you're at Warner Brothers, you might not have the rights to so-and-so anymore.
Oh yeah, I'm having a blast.
You must be having a blast. Amazing. Well, Josh, thank you for joining us on Marketing for the Now. I am so excited to be sitting here with Alyson Griffin, who is from State Farm, and she's one of our esteemed VeeCon speakers. Alyson, thank you for being here with us.
Guys, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
So tell the Marketing for the Now community a little bit about you and a little bit about what brings you to VeeCon this year.
Okay, so VeeCon is a must stop for me, for our team.
Clip that part.
It's about the next and the now, right? Or now, next, now. I mean, thinking about inspirational culture, intersection, inspirational ideas, the forefront, mixing technology with just people's passion points. I think it's really important for folks to understand, especially for marketers when we're trying to engage with what's happening in the world. This is the kind of place to go and get inspired.
I think you are going to be very inspired. You're about to walk into sort of the main event, but did you have a chance to sort of mix and mingle and hear a little bit from the people on the ground already?
Yes, a little bit. I'm hearing wonderful buzz about the setup. I'm hearing great buzz about who's here. I mean, what an impressive roster of speakers too. I cannot wait.
Anyone in particular you're excited about?
Well, I am a little bit excited about T-Pain actually, because we have Gamerhood Season 3 playing right now.
Amazing.
Every Friday in August, and T-Pain is one of the gamers.
Ooh, I love that. He is a multi-hyphenate.
I mean, that guy, that voice, his voice is amazing.
And Saweetie is opening for him.
I know.
Which is super exciting.
So exciting.
Going to be really fun. Okay, you're excited for them. I'm excited for Flavor Flav. So Flavor Flav is someone that we have had a long relationship with and done different deals with over, many years. Yeah. Actually came to our Super Bowl party and we reconnected. And, I always just love his vibe. Yeah. And then I don't know if you've been following, I know you're in the mix on these things, but his work with the women's water polo team is so great.
It's amazing.
And then he last minute was able to join us. So he's speaking too.
Good, great. I can't wait to hear. He's always brings the energy.
He brings the energy. He's just iconic.
Yeah.
So Alyson, tell us a little bit. You do so many incredible events and experiences at State Farm. You all have a robust marketing strategy and portfolio. I'm really curious how you all are thinking about things like experiences translating across social channels.
Yeah, look, we are not trying to go viral. We're
Yep.
not trying
But you
to
go viral a lot.
do anything right. But you know why I think that happens is our currency is culture. And we know that in order to break through, we've got to understand what's happening, which is why, Vayner in general, Gary, our connections are so important to us. So we kind of keep, on the pulse of what's happening.
Yeah.
But staying true to who the brand is, and I'd say for any marketer out there, really thinking about who you are, what you stand for, and coming back to that every time. So here's what I mean. We're big in sports.
Yeah.
You know this. And when Taylor Swift came on the scene a year ago with Travis Kelce, and she shows up in a box, and all of a sudden, I don't know, did she break the internet that day? I guess. But within 1 week to the day, we had Jake from State Farm in the stands with the Kelce's mom, Donna Kelce, and being a good friend to Jason Kelce, not just Travis. He's not the only one who gets a good friend with his mom, but Jason as well, and supporting. So my point is, we weren't trying, nobody knew. That wasn't a pre-thought out campaign or plan or anything, but paying attention and only putting our brand in a place where it's already an accepted, Jake is in football culture and he's a real person who runs around in the world. So he's not a caricature or a cartoon. He literally could legitimately be in the stands with Donna Kelce, for example, celebrating her son and the game. And so we're not trying to do it, but we're setting up the conditions over time so that when a moment like that could happen, we can capture it.
That was such a hit, by the way. I think that broke the internet too.
It was fun. And for us, and that whole what's now, what's next too, our entire marketing philosophy is around 3 areas for our business: capturing current demand, generating future demand, and then retention and loyalty. But now and next is part of our marketing plan and our business opportunity. Now is who's raising hand for your product, and totally try to capture and be there when they're ready. But if you don't pay attention for setting up your business for the midterm and long term, what's gonna happen to your business over time? And so if you don't think about generating future demand and being authentic in the places where that culture is happening, I think you miss out. And I'll say, I spent my entire career in Silicon Valley. It's in me. I was born there, I was raised there. My mom had been at Hewlett Packard for 43 years.
Wow.
I was a little girl, and Bill and Dave, yes, Hewlett and Packard, were patting me on the head at company picnics. So it's in there, right? And then I was at HP for over 17 years, and then at Intel. So a bulk of my career is not from a State Farm perspective. And so those were big global public companies that have the pressure that every public company does quarter to quarter to quarter to quarter. And I say that now I'm in a mutual company, and I'm pretty sure no one here is at a mutual company. I might be the sole representative.
I think you are.
Okay. I get that one. All right. When they say, who traveled the longest distance or whatever, I get the mutual company.
Most people will be like, what is a mutual company?
What is that?
Which actually, for the marketing for the now community, what is a mutual company?
I will. And so the policy holders
Right.
own the business, not the shareholder.
Exactly. It's
And
not listed in that same sort of way.
correct. And so our job, because now, and the reason I'm bringing that up in comparison to a public company is, we have the pleasure, the opportunity, and the responsibility of taking a longer view. It's not about every quarter shareholder value. It's our mission. How can we help more people in more ways forever? And that doesn't mean, every single person always, but it means that our investments, we don't have to just every quarter show a value. We have to give our customers, our policy holders, the value and be there for them. Every promise made, which is your policy, has to be a promise kept because you're trusting us. So I say this in the context of marketing, back to public and mutuality, is if you don't think of a long view and you're only doing ROI, short, quarter, all of a sudden you turn around and you go, what did my brand add up to? I was so busy worried about what's happening right this second that I think a lot of marketers think they're paying attention to their brand, but truly that long view is missed because they're so worried about random acts of marketing, really, for right now.
Yeah.
So I challenge all my marketing friends to say it matters very much that your brand is consistent over time. And for us, that's being a good neighbor. And everything we do, everywhere we go, we need to show up as a good neighbor.
And you all do, like, just that sound in my head is like there is what you're saying is directly contrasted with what some marketers have been doing, like a very, very publicly traded company that is made up of incredible marketers. They've long been doing these anthemic films. It's iconic, and I think their share price dropped like 20 or 30%.
Oh, I know.
Yes, we're not going to name names,
No,
but
yep.
In the past few years, they've shifted their strategy to be much more performance,
Yes.
Direct response, and
Yeah.
they've lost a little bit of that brand building, which is what made the company so iconic. And
Yes.
when you are a publicly traded company and that sand shifts, it can really be a tough spot.
You're absolutely right. It was funny because growing up in Silicon Valley and being in tech, I have also part of that DNA is that next, new, try, go, do, fail, launch. I mean, that's just the tech industry. I don't mean
Innovation.
Marketing part, but the whole companies were set up that way. You had to. And if you don't think about, I've got to pay attention to what's happening so that the sand doesn't shift from under you, have to be willing to pay attention and make that change that needs to be made for your business. And brand is important. I'm in a very competitive category. I mean, insurance is one of the most competitive categories in this country. And so those agents that are in all those zip codes across the country, they're really there. You don't even have to be a State Farm customer. In fact, I have a story, a quick one. A friend was driving in a different state and their car broke down. And they didn't know what to do, where to go. I'm not exactly sure what the exact circumstances, but she kind of freaked out and she remembered, there's probably a State Farm office around here. And not even being a State Farm customer, goes in and says, hi, I'm broken down, I'm not even a customer. And they gave them water, called the tow place, helped make the repairs. It's not about only for our customers, although of course for our customers, but it's also just being there as that good neighbor for all these other little moments in between.
I love the parallels between that story and then the story of Dawn and Kelsey as well. It's like you all are there being a good neighbor, whether people are watching or not, right? And a lot of times people end up watching. So I'm sure plenty of times they don't. But that sort of be a good neighbor. That is State Farm. And actually, I love my agent. I am a State Farm customer, and they send like the little handwritten cards, and it's just really sweet in an era of everything's digital, everything, and no one talks, and like I don't want to answer the phone call or anything. It's just happy holidays, like little things like that are super sweet and so in line with your sort of brand values and brand positioning.
Good, great, thank you. Yeah. So I'm really excited about the opportunities that marketers have ahead of us. And so I just got back from Cannes.
Yes.
And was so inspired. And that's where connecting Cannes and VeeCon, like I'm in this headspace of thinking about the insights that are happening. I want to understand culture and what, Gary's view and where we're headed and, hearing from the other speakers as well. And really thinking about the insights and that inspiration that Cannes was reminding me of as a marketer. I mean, I've been doing this for over 30 years, Avery. Like
we can't tell. Her skincare routine must be dropped.
Oh my gosh, but thank you. But I love marketing, but you have to be reminded to keep it simple and stay true to your brand. And there were two really good examples that inspired me there. And it just at the root of true to your brand, not random acts of marketing quarter to quarter. And one was Sweethearts, the candy. Did you see that?
Yes.
Situation ships.
So good.
And that insight, they had candy that they couldn't sell because it was
unsellable
candy. And then they packaged it and they knew that situation ships was way people were currently talking about and characterizing their relationships, and they're like, for your relationship, for like a sentiment as blurry as your relationship.
Yeah.
And it was all messed up candy.
I thought that was so good, and it connects the product to the message, and it also connects it to relevance.
And an insight, exactly. And they sold out stuff that they wouldn't have been able to for their business. It was a great move. And then the other one that was so simple was Salvation Army, and that insight of people like awareness and they're traveling and they're in hotel rooms.
Right.
And so they had a hangar with Salvation Army, and the idea was if you left anything or wanted to donate something, or you didn't pack enough, you bought stuff and you didn't have enough room and you wanted to leave something, or even not, there was a Salvation hangar, and anything that was left in the room there with your permission was then donated to that local community. And even if nobody did it, it's like the insight is everyone opens the closet in their hotel room. Whether you're going to use every amenity, the safe might be in there, or a robe or not, or hangers or whatever. But you open that closet, and there is Salvation Army reminding you.
Great impression.
To be great. And I just think it was that kind of thing of, yes, stay true to your brand. Don't do random things. Think about the long view. And then that's how a legacy brand can continue itself.
Continue its legacy.
Right. And so for us, we've been around 102 years, again, in a category nobody cares about. But I think we've got to think that way.
Right. And continue to be that brand that people love, that they trust, that they come back to for 102 years and counting.
Yes.
Alyson, thank you so much for joining us on Marketing for the Now. Thank you for being here at VeeCon. We're so excited to have an amazing weekend together.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me on Marketing for the Now.
Glad to be here.
Tell our Marketing for the Now community a little bit about you, a little bit about what brings you to VeeCon.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Adam Arnette. I'm the Chief Growth Officer of Removery, the world's tattoo removal experts, based in Austin, Texas. We have 150 locations across the US, Australia, and Canada. So I oversee the growth of the brand. We're on a very fast trajectory of growth. Yeah, rocket ship. So just in a little over 4 years, 150 locations. And so we're on a trajectory to double that here in the next couple of years. So,
a lot of growth.
Yeah, a lot of growth. So background is building brands, from real estate investment to the last 10 plus years really building direct consumer healthcare businesses.
Okay.
From spine surgery, migraine surgery, to dental, and now, of course, tattoo removal. So
I feel like this is something that people need. I see on social media all the time, people are like tattoo regret, etc.
Yes.
Removery is helping make that easy for them and also convenient.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's the need is exploding, right? And so more people are getting tattoos every day. And so when you look at the stats around people with tattoos, out of the 300 million population, a third of people have at least a couple of tattoos.
Yep.
And then a third of those roughly have thought about having one or more removed. And so it's not just the regrets, right? It's like, sure, there are the people that got it in college, might have had a little too much to drink.
I was that person. I used to have a
There
tattoo right here. You can no longer see it because I got it removed.
Okay.
But I got it removed before Removery was in the US.
Right. Yeah, well, yeah, the removal process was around, but certainly not at scale. And
exactly.
But as we've looked at that market, the people that have them, there's the regrets, and then there's just life change, right? So things change. I'm not the same person I was when I got the tattoo, and I want it removed. And I want to do something
evolving.
Different. Of course, absolutely. And then you have people that are the tattoo enthusiasts that have full sleeve, maybe an area is faded or they don't like that area. We can go in, remove it for the tattoo artist, and they can go do new work, clean slate.
That is a really interesting use case because there are so many people, especially we're here in LA, and like a lot of people have amazing tattoo art. And it's interesting that you're like, great, if you want to take it to the next level, you might want to redo that little section. And I feel like a lot of people have that desire. Yeah,
absolutely. So in fact, yesterday, Casey and I were walking out before the panel, and a gentleman approached who actually owns several tattoo studios. And he said, hey, I want to talk to you about this because I need to be able to send my clients to a removal location. I wasn't aware of you guys. Now I am. What can we do? Because a lot of the tattoo artists, obviously, they're artists, right? So they take pride in their work. Cover-ups are a challenge in the tattoo world. So if they have somebody that comes in and they want a cover-up, they'd rather have a clean slate, as you mentioned, to work with. So they can refer them to us. We can treat them, fade that tattoo, sometimes in as little as 3 sessions. They go back to the artist. It's a much better experience for the client and the artist, and so it's a great partnership there.
Partnerships blossoming in VeeCon. We love it. Okay, so Adam, what brings you to VeeCon?
Yeah, so
you spoke yesterday.
Did speak. Yeah, and which was a ton of fun. So there was obviously that. The networking opportunities are great. So we can sit in a boardroom all day long and talk about how to evolve our businesses and how are we going to grow the brand, what are we going to do to engage with the customer. But it's when you get out to events like this where you can really find a lot of ideas that you just wouldn't have thought of. You're going to make connections that you might not think of. I was approached right after the panel yesterday by a personality from Food Network and History Channel.
Yep.
And because of the talk, he heard what we were doing, he learned about us, and he had his own personal story about tattoo removal. But he said, hey, I'd love to work with you guys. And by the way, I've got, 1 million followers, and I'll document the journey. And, but that's somebody we wouldn't have necessarily thought to reach out to. And everybody has their own story. And as we figure out how to better connect, we're able to better grow our brand. So, those connections at the event are priceless, really.
I love that. That was only day one. Like that
Right.
was kind of the warm up.
It's just the beginning.
So we're gonna have 2 more days of that. What do you think of VeeCon so far? Just of the community of like the sort of topics.
Yeah. So obviously in my career, I've been to a lot of events, and this one's different. It really is and it probably how VeeCon evolved from the get go, and now it's. As I've explained to people, and then I've seen, and heard Gary talk about it, it's like South by Southwest, now on the West Coast. And so bringing together people from so many different disciplines and businesses, you got CMOs, you have founders, you have content creators. It's a very different vibe in bringing together a group of people in so many different areas that you don't normally see at other events. And so to me, that brings a ton of value to it. Helps you think about your business differently and see, and learn from what others are doing.
And how are you thinking sort of as a chief growth officer about events as almost like content generation? We're obviously recording this right now. I know you guys do a lot of great work in-house and some of the Sasha group. How are you thinking about events that travel beyond the event itself?
As far as our brand? Yeah. So, we have such an opportunity to reach a huge market in what we do.
You have 150 studios.
We have 150 studios, and all across the country and Australia, Canada as well. And so, from a standpoint of more global reach, that's certainly an opportunity for us. And we're constantly thinking about, even just participation in certain events across industries, tattoo artists in particular. We do a lot there, even cosmetic tattoo artists, right? So that's an area we really haven't even explored yet. There's a big conference coming up in Brisbane, and we're going to be participating in that. But a lot of reach there, and also for us to get out to more events like this and make connections there. So
spread the word, all the amazing things that you guys are doing. I'm so excited to be sitting here with Mandy Rassi. It is day 2 of VeeCon, and we are kicking off Marketing for the Now. Gary is going on, I think, right now to do his opening keynote, but we're sitting here with a real boss, Mandy. Mandy, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So you were with us a little bit yesterday. What did you think of day 1 of VeeCon?
So it was great. We kicked off with the TikTok team in your awesome new office here. And I think it was just a great way to kick off in terms of a little bit about AI, a lot about creating content and building followings and community, which for what we're doing is very, very relevant. And then honestly, it's also just great to connect with friends, like over dinner last night, like other business leaders, the whole Vayner crew, that like having everyone all in one place was so much fun.
It was an amazing kickoff to it, and just like the creators, the marketers, the friends and family all getting together. Also, very importantly, can you tell the Marketing for the Now community a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at the Michaels Companies. So Michaels, the craft store that you probably think of, and then Maker Place by Michaels, which is our new startup, hand goods marketplace that's purely online.
Amazing. And what are you looking to sort of like get out of VeeCon day 2 and 3?
A few things. So one, I think it is a really unique combination of marketing, business, tech, creators, entertainment, culture, and just looking through the lineup, you really get sort of the collision of all of those things. So obviously in the space that we're in is all about creativity. And right now, things like AI, blockchain, NFTs are really colliding with that world.
Yes.
So I'm interested, there's a talk later today, there's some more tomorrow about creators talking about AI and NFTs and how they're leveraging those and where it might be going. So that's sort of one hot topic. And then always, especially for the startup brand that we have where we are just trying to get it off the ground. We're like in our first 6 months.
Yep.
So a lot about figuring out how to build following, community, build the brand in social, like very different than Michaels. And prior to Michaels, I was at Kroger and Procter & Gamble. So I've done a lot of big brands where you get the luxury of built-in audiences and,
Built-in awareness.
Built-in awareness. where we have zero awareness to start on Makerplace. So it's been a lot of fun to try to figure out how do you do all of that in social. And obviously, like, nobody does it better than you guys. So I'm excited to learn more, as we continue to be on that journey.
Thank you. That's amazing. And, I feel like P&G, and I've worked with a lot of different P&G leaders and brands over my career. I feel like P&G is like Marketers Academy. Like, there are some incredible fundamentals that P&G sort of teaches you. And, I feel like the P&G Alumni Network always goes on to do these incredible things.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and sort of how your learnings at P&G shaped the CMO you are today?
Yeah, so P&G literally like changed my whole life. So I went to P&G out of undergrad. I'd never taken a business class, but they hired me anyway into what they called consumer and market knowledge, which was, there are a lot of different verticals to the function. So it can be like strategy and innovation. Now it's a lot of data science and analytics. So I started my career there. Then that became sort of part of the brand function. And then I moved over to marketing later in my career.
It's more like insights driven.
Yeah, more insights, data, a lot of work from a marketing point of view, but then also heavily product innovation, R&D, actually figuring out how you grow a brand comprehensively. So, I mean, I learned like everything there, down to like, I had to learn finance there.
Yep.
Luckily I had amazing partners, but really the core brand building fundamentals. They will say consumer is boss. A lot of companies say things like that, but they really live and breathe it. And not just like, oh, we have a little bit of data and then we decide. It's like really about getting very close to your customer, which when I started there, 20 plus years ago was very different than now, because it was a lot of primary research, going out and like doing laundry with people.
Yeah.
Like my first brand was Old Spice when we were going through that transformation. When I first went there, it was like Old Spice. So it was a lot of time like with team dudes trying to figure out like what is cool, what would make them interested in this brand. Where today, I think those same fundamentals still apply of like who, what, how. But the good news is you can also go a lot faster, and you can do it at scale by using social and figuring out your cohorts, and you sort of have insights alive sort of on the internet and on your phone 24/7. But I think the core foundations that P&G teaches on that, on strategy and really making choices. I will say since I've left P&G, it's one thing I probably underappreciated when I was there, was the intentionality about what we would do, what we would not do, how we were gonna do it, thinking through like disciplined scenario planning on things, and writing. Like you write and write and write, which really, for me, clarifies thinking. So I think so much of the world exists in like PowerPoint decks.
Yes.
And I still go back often to like the one pager. Like, can you distill it down, get to the clarity of thought, both for yourself, but then obviously explaining it to an audience as well.
Nobody writes a brief like P&G.
Oh my gosh, the briefs. Yes, like the number of times you would get that brief sent back, because all the leaders, many of the leaders were marketers.
Right.
And I remember I worked for a woman named Alex Keith, who now runs like all of beauty.
Alex, yes, absolutely.
Like probably
Icon.
the best marketer I have. I mean, she's incredible. And even among amazing marketers at P&G, she is a part. But the level of detail and discipline on the brief and getting it tighter, making sure we have the right big idea and that pulls all the way through. Like I would say I learned a ton from working with her and leaders like her, again, of just the intentionality, the details matter, the idea being very tight, and then not letting, like giving creative freedom, but within a very clear objective of what we're trying to get done.
Amazing. I think that's so true, and it's something that I, see even today when I'm reading a brief from P&G that, I used to be a little bit more like actioning it. Now I'm like, okay, yes, I can tell, like this is clear, they know what they want, and it's up to us to deliver on it. And I think the other great thing about, companies like P&G, alumni of P&Gs, they also have this tendency to give accountability to, their partners. They're like, okay, great, you said you could do it, do it.
Yes, very true. I think, and that's another one. Now, obviously, I've shifted to retail for about the last decade. It is detail, and I think it's always the balance. And now I have my last two teams here, and at Kroger, I had a creative organization as part of my team. And it is always the balance for the other teams of like, okay, you're not the art director, so we don't need to go in and tell the creative team suggestions on copy lines or how to do this or that. And I would say even definitely in social, I'm actually pretty hands-off on that. I have an amazing both paid social leader and then an organic social leader. And a lot of it is making sure, again, we're very clear on the brief, and then they should go off and do it. Like if I'm the one guiding the art direction of what we're doing in our TikTok content, we will be dead.
Right.
Like as my kids will tell you every day, like, oh, you're cringy, that's not cool. So I also know, like, I've hired those people for a reason. Or like when we work with you guys on our Maker Place business, the team generated, like 2 weeks ago, we have 50 versions of what we're doing, basically just 50 pieces of content. And then we just put them all out there and we see what hits. And then the greatest hits of that will then get elevated. So I think in that way, it's also changed where the team needs to be clear generally what we're trying to get done, who are the audiences we want to reach, but then giving the creative teams and the content creators the space to go do their thing. And I think for a lot of marketers, it can get very tempting to get in there and be like, well, but I don't really like right there on frame 3, and you can start picking it apart. One, rarely does that stuff actually matter to the customer if you're in the right box, right? So it's like we will get into minutia of like, should it be that shade of green or this shade of green? And most of the stuff on social, as you know, it doesn't matter, but it can be tempting, I think, especially for people who maybe grew up in the land of print ads or even frankly at P&G when I got there, TV spots that are going to run for 3, 4, 5 months. You had to be more precise, where now it's more like, okay, we're going to put 50 things out there. Some are going to be terrible and some are going to do great, and then we'll just continue.
But we would always test them, right? I know, like, we used to test the copies. And then now I think organic social, like, we can test them there. And it's like, okay, and we're not putting media behind them. So, like, you know, we see which ones work and which ones get traction. And, you know, from our perspective, you're just mentioning AI. I think the best AI algorithms that exist today are on the social platforms. It's going to serve the right person, the right thing, what they're interested in, which is going to be better than any, you know, focus group that we're going to be able to, you know, gather together and have 25 people tell us what they think about the ad.
Yes, for sure. And actually, there may be hundreds of versions that are the best for that one person. And I think that's the other thing that's changed a lot. Again, still starting with the who, but now, like if I take a brand like Michael's, it's a very category driven business. If you are like a crochet person, or you're a painting person, or you're a woodworking person, those are all different communities. So the beauty of it is I don't have to have one that works for all of them. We can have the few that work here, here, and here, and they can be different. But it's more complexity to get your head around as a leader, like you're placing more bets in different places, and then you build the brand that way versus building the brand and like, here's the TV spot that will run for holiday. I
love Michael's, by the way. Just going into a Michael's is like fun because I feel like I love like arts and craftsy, designy type of things. I know we were chatting about this yesterday. So I feel like I always discover new hobbies that I want to try when I'm at a Michael's. One that I really captured my attention though is I heard there was a shortage of thread and beads driven by the Taylor Swift effect. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Friendship bracelets went wild.
This time last year was bananas, and we could see, we had her tour schedule obviously, and so we were trying to get ahead of. And it really was not weeks and weeks ahead. It was the week, and then really it peaked sort of 3 days before the concert. So we were trying to play with our supply chain to flow supply to the right places, but the Swifties are vast and prolific in their making, for sure. So in stores, it's hard to hold the inventory, even if you're prepared for it, because you won't literally only have so much shelf space. Luckily, .com is a way of doing more, and we have a marketplace that has a much more vast assortment online as well, using third-party sellers. But yeah, it was almost like you could not have enough.
That's
so it was a ton of fun, and people were happy and excited, and you know, and not just kids. There were tons of kids doing it.
Adults, the moms, the dads, everybody got into it. Well, let's hope the Swifties get into something like, I don't know, canvas, picture frames next.
Please, please.
Mandy, thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait for your talk. 1:45, right?
Yep, you got it.
You're gonna crush it.
Thanks.
Super excited to be sitting down with you. Thank you for joining us.
I'm excited to be here.
Can you tell the Marketing for the Now community a little bit about you, a little about who you are?
Yeah, my name is Jedrix Aquino, and I'm the Executive Director for Digital Strategy and Operations for Allergan Aesthetics for the Allergan Medical Institute, which is the arm that educates all of our injectors on how to use our portfolio of products like Botox Cosmetic and the Juvederm collection of fillers.
Ooh, okay, amazing. That's why your skin looks so great.
Well, thank you very much. God bless you. Well, that's also part of our Skin Medica line.
Okay.
Skincare. So
amazing. Yeah, so Allergan's a big company. Tell us a little bit about like the full breadth of what you all do.
So Allergan Aesthetics has a full portfolio. So there are essentially 4 product pillars. One is our facial injectables, so
Yep.
that's where the Botox Cosmetic, Juvederm Collection.
I bet a lot of our marketing for the Now community has heard of those.
I'm sure you guys have, and you all look great for
Yeah.
it. Kybella, and then we also have our body contouring
Right.
line, which is cool sculpting, cool
Yep.
tone. We have our skincare line, Skin Medica, and then we also have our plastic and regenerative medicine, which is our breast implants. natural
Okay,
breast implants.
amazing. Also, I feel like Skin Medica A++. I'm a big skincare girly, so thank you all for your service.
Awesome, yes. TNS Advanced Serum, that's the Advanced Plus Serum, that's the way to go.
That's it, amazing. And how long have you been there?
I've been there for 2.5 years.
Cool.
So, I was at Johnson & Johnson for 16 years, and I worked in the medical device segment, but my last 6 years at J&J, I was in aesthetics marketing for their breast implant division.
Okay,
And
cool.
Then I made the jump over
You
to
made the jump?
Allergan Aesthetics.
Have you always been here in LA?
My whole life, I've lived in either Orange County or LA.
Okay, amazing. What a great place to be. We're so excited to be here for VeeCon, and I feel like there's an amazing community of marketers who are sort of based in Southern California. It's been really cool to connect with them and invite some of them to join us.
Yeah, I mean, I just love the energy. Like, part of why I'm coming to VeeCon
Yeah.
is because it's like a merging of business and tech and social and branding, and just, personal growth. And so, my whole team I brought with me.
Yes.
So, we're all here to learn and collaborate, and network. It's going to be an amazing time.
You all are going to have such a great time. And I love how you just sort of summed that up. We call it business innovation, pop culture, marketing, and then whatever else Gary throws in there, because there's some fun little surprises.
Well, that's what I love. It's so dynamic. Like, there isn't a defined box, and it's just like that with business,
Right.
and especially in like the digital realm, it's constantly changing, constantly moving, and there's always something else to consider,
Right.
Like AI, like that's like the hot topic.
It
A lot
is.
of people are afraid of it, but it's like you have to stop and think, like, what? There's still going to be a human element.
Yeah.
Like, we tell AI, what it needs to learn. Like, there's still going to be a person involved. And that storytelling of that human impact, like, I feel like it's alive and well, in this community.
I completely agree. So AI, let's talk a little bit about that. It has been the hot topic, I think, for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I think it was just about 2 years ago when I saw Midjourney for the first time, which is like that text to image generation. And running an agency where we do so many mock-ups,
Yeah.
so many client presentations, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so incredible. But of course,
You can do it so much more quickly.
You can do it so
you
much
can
more
create these
quickly.
mood boards.
Exactly. And it's just really taken off from there. And I've actually been really surprised at how Fortune 500s have been able to embrace this, because oftentimes they, like to your point, they're scared. But a lot of our partners have moved quickly into this space with at least pilots and explorations. How are y'all thinking about that?
So from an Allergan Aesthetics standpoint, like I'm not a representative for the company, so I'm not speaking on behalf of Allergan Aesthetics.
Good disclosure.
But I do know that we're looking at it, and with any large corporation, because we're part of AbbVie
Yep.
Pharmaceuticals, there's always like that, that tiptoe in, because we want to make sure that from a security standpoint, we're not creating
Yes.
any vulnerabilities, and unleashing a population of thousands of employees to use AI,
Yeah.
that could be problematic, so I know right now we're in the evaluation stage, and we're using it in phases.
Right.
Where, we're slowly introducing it.
Prudent.
Yeah.
How about you personally? Are you playing around?
I am. I like for like ChatGPT. Like I'll use it to draft an email.
Yeah.
Or even create captions for social. But I also try not to use it so much to the point where I kind of like turn off my brain and my
Right.
storytelling capabilities, because I do feel like there's a sameness that comes out of
It's vanilla.
AI, because it's looking at information in aggregate, right? So like, it's like what's most common and what
Yep.
is most out there. So when you get a caption like that, it's kind of like, okay, you still, a human still needs to do something to make it, to make it me. So yes, I am using it as like more of like a starting point, but not like to do the work for me.
Yeah. And have you done any image generation? Have you played around with a Dolly function in ChatGPT?
I have, and I feel like it's getting
You
better.
seem like you're an early adopter.
Because initially it was like, that's a weird image, like, but I feel like now it's getting a little bit better. I'm early adopter maybe. I think I'm more of like I play with it to try to
Okay.
understand it, but in terms of like putting it into use, like for a business or personal,
Right.
that part's a little bit more slow.
Yeah, absolutely. But playing around is like such an important part of it. We were actually just chatting with another one of our guests around TikTok's AI Symphony, which they've actually, and this is where I think it's heading. I think that a lot of these like standalone AI tools will actually be integrated into the things that we're already using. So we've seen this with like Microsoft and
or Gemini.
Exactly,
Yeah.
with Gemini with Google, and like TikTok's bringing it into their app. And like, I think that's how people will use it more commonly versus going to a standalone app like a Mid-Journey,
Right.
which just like most people aren't going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the way of most things, right? Like
Exactly.
adoption, I think, is driven when it's integrated into the way you work or into your workflow.
Yeah.
Because I think if you have to go to a separate thing,
Right, you're gonna have to be someone who's like really into it to go to that separate thing.
Right. Yeah, and just like no one wants another thing to log into, or another platform to then copy and paste and put it in. But if it's already integrated, I think that's the way.
Like Meta AI, do you use WhatsApp?
I do use WhatsApp, but I haven't used any of the AI functions.
That honestly is pretty impressive. And the reason that I bring that up, we were just talking about Japan and your recent trip there. And when I work with our international teams, like everything's WhatsApp. Like they don't iMessage, they use WhatsApp. And that is embedded, that is their primary method of communication, even over email and certainly over text. That is like the first thing you see that takes up like a quarter of the screen.
Yeah.
So Meta's really pushing people to use that. And of course it's based on their Llama model.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it even on like Instagram and Facebook. You see that circle.
Exactly.
So.
They're starting to like
Absolutely.
introduce it to us. Though I agree with you, it's not ready for prime time. And I think what to sort of summarize your points, it kind of becomes like a vanilla lowest common denominator. And then like, how is that different? Jedrix saying versus Avery versus
Right.
Crystal, any of that like just kind of all gets watered down. So you still have to add your perspective. And I can always tell when people are like sending me something that was written by AI because it just doesn't sound.
It's so obvious.
It's so obvious.
Like I'll interview somebody and they'll send back an email where I'm, like follow-up email.
Yeah.
Like, thanks for interviewing me, la 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 la. And I'm reading this thing. I'm like, oh my gosh.
You're like,
they,
nope.
They didn't even take the time to personalize it. Like, I'm not going to fault anybody
Right.
for using it, as a starting point, but you still have to put in the work.
Yeah, someone actually did that to me recently, and I was like, oh yeah, I was like, great to see you using AI in action. They're like, could you tell? I'm like, yeah.
You're like, absolutely.
I definitely could tell,
Absolutely.
and the fact that you couldn't is a little. But anyway, so Jedrix, any particular things about VeeCon that you're excited about seeing, hearing?
This is my first one. So
Had you heard of it before?
I had heard of it before,
Okay.
but I've never been able to go. But this time around, I saw it, and then it was right up against my Japan trip. So
Right.
I was a little bit concerned I'd be too jet lagged. Hopefully, I don't look too jet lagged. But
Nope.
I'm really excited just to be just the overall energy, and I'm excited about the main sessions, and I've never seen Gary live. So I see snippets of him, I've seen some of his videos, I'm excited to read his book, Day Trading Attention. I haven't
Did I
gotten
send
to
you a
it
copy?
yet. I haven't gotten one yet.
Okay,
I
all
will-
right.
I will-
We're
I
gonna
will
have to do
take
this
it.
as a
I will
follow
take
up.
it.
We're gonna have to send it for your whole team, and really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us at VeeCon.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to be here with Lindsey. Lindsey, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Excited.
Tell the Marketing for the Now audience a little bit about you, a little bit about your career, and what you're doing here at VeeCon.
Sure. I'm Lindsey Scheftic. I run a business called the CMO Sidekick. And
Great name.
Thank you. I started my business about a year ago. I was the CMO for Ring at Amazon. And, what I struggled with was, being the senior executive and then kind of like, during COVID and after, a lot of this like mid-senior level layer, kind of they were all let go or there were org changes. And so I would see the differential between my experience and kind of the next person on my team was like 10 years.
Right.
And so I started this company to be a partner to CMOs, to come help fill gaps and to, kind of help senior leaders with their marketing, challenges and just kind of come in and be a partner. So it's been fantastic so far. Working with Comcast, I'm working with a few other brands. And prior to that, I was at Vans, I was at Red Bull. I also came from agency world, so I understand your world really well. So just have, kind of enjoyed coming full circle and bringing all that experience together to run my own thing now. So
That's amazing. And I
Yeah.
know you're absolutely killing it and bringing a bunch of great partners together.
Thank
so
you.
what brings you to VeeCon?
what brings me to VeeCon? Well, I can't miss an opportunity to see you, first of all, but also to see Gary and the whole Vayner crew. I think that, when I looked at the agenda and the speakers and who's coming, it's bigger than marketing, right? It's about, and being an entrepreneur, there's lots of content around, running your own business and empowering women and, kind of being in charge of your destiny. And I thought that really resonated with me. And also there's just so much great content on AI and content generation. And obviously, as someone who's running my own business and working on behalf of clients, I really want to stay ahead of the curve and understand what everybody is doing out in the marketplace.
So Lindsey, you just talked a little bit about content, and when I think about a place like VeeCon, there's the experience itself, which is amazing for the fans, for the attendees, for the speakers, for the community, but also the impact of that content can travel so far beyond just this event itself.
Totally.
At Vayner, we call this like our events for content strategy. I'd love to hear how you think about events as like a CMO, as a marketer, as a sort of big thinker in the space.
Totally. I think, having been at Red Bull, which I think is a brand that does events for content
absolutely
the best, and maybe one of the first. And, I always tell people I went to Red Bull College. It's kind of where I got my knowledge base of marketing and kind of the zig when everyone else is zagging. I think it's so important. I was just at Cannes, and a big part of me for going to Cannes was going and networking and talking with people in person, but also just capturing that content and being able to share what I was doing and what was out there was incredible reach for me personally in my business, and had a lot of interest, and actually had a couple of posts go viral and people recognizing me from social media. It was weird. It was like my influencer moment. But I think that it is more important even to capture the content of the day and put it out there so a local event doesn't become a local event, it becomes a global event.
Tell us a little bit about those viral posts. I would need to hear more.
Well, in one of them, I was wearing a gold dress and on LinkedIn, and I was talking about this horrific thing that happened at Cannes the year before, which was this really choppy boat ride that a lot of people
Oh my God, I remember that boat ride, yes.
Yeah. And
that was viral.
I had posted this picture saying, hey, I'm coming back to Cannes. I will not be going to Monaco this year, but I'll be there. And so many people just, commented, and there's this great engagement, and that kind of kicked off my Cannes experience. It was really cool.
And what does going viral mean to you? Is it 10,000? Is it 100,000? Is it 1 million? Is it 2,000?
That post, I had about 40,000 impressions on that post.
That's just pretty amazing.
Pretty good.
You're an individual person.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not Gary Vee, and you're getting 40,000 impressions.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. The reason I double down on that is because I think this threshold of virality varies so much per person, per brand. If you're Red Bull, 40,000 is nothing.
Right.
If you're Lindsey, that's really good.
Yeah.
If you're a mid-market B2B like niche thing, that might be amazing.
Totally.
So I think that threshold of virality is really interesting. But you always know when you feel it and when you see it. You're like, okay, usually I get 400, and this is 40,000.
Totally.
What did I do that was right about that post that sort of scales it into the next thing?
Totally.
It seems like that inspired you to create more content.
Yeah, it is. I've been experimenting a lot. I've been, actually Gary and Nick on your team were texting me a few weeks ago, and they said, Lindsey, you need to post more content. You need to create more content. I went to your office yesterday with the TikTok team and some of your creators talking just about iterating and posting different content and just tonnage, putting as much out there as possible. So I'm working on it.
I love that.
A lot of time commitment, but it's so important, especially as you're growing your own business. So I'm working on it.
One quote that stuck out to me from yesterday is they were talking about volume and variety, and you've heard of the Vayner volume model before, so this is not news to you, but I think it's something we've been talking about for a long time, that a lot of brands really struggle because everything has to match and feel the exact same. And certainly that matters to an extent, but really also volume and variety matters because people are consuming this content from different lenses, from different sort of angles. And the For You page is all curated based on what you're interested in, what you'll like. And what your For You page looks like is inherently going to be very different than mine.
Yeah.
So it's just different than like traditional media where an out of home is an out of home and it looks the same for everyone.
Yeah. I thought that was one of the most interesting things about yesterday. We were talking about Symphony and AI generated content.
It's amazing, by the way.
I was poking around on it yesterday, and I was like, this is going to change how people make content. And when people think about generative AI, sometimes it can be really scary to think about, there's just going to be a bunch of content out there that is not going to be curated, that's just going to be, just tons of content, but just low quality. And I think what struck me yesterday was the content creator saying, I can take my B-roll and my voice and just go and put this together and create real content for me, but at a pace that I can't keep up with or make on my own. And that really resonated with me because I'm always thinking like, how am I gonna make all this stuff? Like I come to an event, I take lots of, video, I take lots of pictures, like how can I kind of slice it all together? And so I think it's just gonna really democratize like making more content and really getting that out into the world, but still being authentic and genuine.
Yeah, one, I love Symphony AI. I'm on their like AI council, and they've been showing us some early stuff too that's really exciting. And I love the idea that you can take a long form piece, like even what we're doing right now, right? We're gonna have an hour and a half of interviewing CMOs, and then it can pick like the viral, funny moments, and you're like, that's amazing. And Crystal can pick those too. But it's nice to help, streamline that process a little bit so we can post it like tomorrow, which is inherently gonna be more relevant to VeeCon than if we post it in 2 weeks.
Totally. Yeah.
Lindsey, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
on
you.
Marketing for the Now. Always
Thank
a pleasure.
You too.